Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are author Adam Schell and artist Dani Silver Simons. Her work is on the set today. Chef, author Adam Schell was born in New York and raised in New Jersey. Attended Northwestern University on a football scholarship. Not really what chefs usually do. Is that true?
I think Gordon Ramsay was a really incredible soccer player.
Oh, he was. That's right. So how did you get from athlete to chef?
Well, I was born in Queens, New York, and then lived in a town called, then moved to a town called Madison, New Jersey, which had a real heavy component of Sicilians. It was the old Dodge estate, one of the kind of the original wealthy families, and all these Sicilians had moved there to manage the rose gardens. So I grew up, all the guys I played football with, all Dan Izzo, Vito Lapone, all these Italian guys, we would have these incredible feasts. So even though we were typical high school football players in some capacity, there was a great love of food. I mean, we had some feasts.
But love of food doesn't mean you can cook it, does it? Mama's cooking. Was Mama cooking?
No, actually, that's the thing. My parents, I had a housekeeper growing up named Gert, incredible Southern black woman from the South who really, really raised me and her cooking was fabulous. And my mom was not into cooking. She was kind of the prototype 70s feminist and everything. She was working and so forth. And so after my parents got divorced, I realized if we want to eat well in the house, I better learn to cook.
Is that right?
Yeah, so at 13, 14, I really started to cook.
Oh, so you really did get into it. When you were in college, were you cooking?
Well, I went to school on a football scholarship, but during the summers, I actually owned a small little restaurant during the summers. I hooked up with a local caterer. You know those campus food trucks that drive around?
Oh, that was great.
So I hooked up with that guy, and Northwestern had a great athletic center that was on Lake Michigan. So we rented this patio that was on Lake Michigan, and we ran a lunchtime cafe out there.
Did that give you credentials to work at Glorious Foods, which is the chic caterer in New York?
Well, my brother was a waiter for Glorious Food.
And so you had a little inn.
I had an inn. And Glorious Food's a really interesting company. Some of it's assembly line work. And as long as your knife skills are pretty good, they'll hire you. And then you work your way up.
Knife skills?
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's
not sleeping.
No.
Knife
skills. Actually, the night skills will help, though, because there were some 100-hour weeks in there.
Were there?
Oh, my God, yeah.
So you were what were you doing?
Well, I started there. I had some skills from chefing, from chefing through high school, working in delis and salamarias, and then the lunchtime place I owned during the summer. So at Glorious Food, I started as a prep cook, and then I worked my way up to party chef, where I would go out and do events and do parties and
see the famous New York people.
Yeah.
Were you cooking for whom?
I was in all their homes. Brooke Astor, we were in the Vanderbilt Children's Home, Jackie Onassis before she passed away.
Because she always used Glorious Foods, didn't she?
Always. Barbara Walters.
Sean, was she?
Sean Driscoll, yeah.
Yeah,
very
she
good
was
friends.
his friends,
Very good friends. Made meatloaf for Barbara Walters on more than one occasion.
Ooh.
Yeah. But the best event we actually ever did, Oprah Winfrey, for Maya Angelou's, I think it was her 60th birthday party. She flew all of Glorious Food down, 120 Glorious Food employees down to North Carolina on the campus of Wake Forest. And all the hippest black folks in the United States came out. I mean, this was a party that was
it the best?
It was actually the most. Peaches and Cream performed. I mean, Shaka Khan. It was outrageous.
And the food?
The food was incredible. And the flowers. I'd never seen flowers like that. She actually, her flower designer, built each table, so each table was canopied in flowers. So when you went into your table, you had to actually duck down, and it was as if there was a parasol of exotic flowers just covering you. And the fragrance of that room, I'll never forget.
So I think all of those experiences helped you with Tomato Rhapsody, your novel.
Yeah,
absolutely. Can you, remember all those things? Why did you move to L.A.?
I moved to LA originally. I had met a woman traveling, and I moved because of that. But then she left, and I got a better one, the one who I married.
God.
So she left, I got the house, and then my wife, I met my wife a few years
What
later.
about gardening? You started growing heirloom tomatoes.
Well, I met a guy named Tony Keenans who is creates edible landscapes. Organic edible landscapes.
Is he in LA?
Yeah, he's in LA. He does Steve Martin's home. He does a lot of really wonderful homes. And I met him through friends at an organization called Tree People, which is the urban forestry. And I just said, I call me when you need somebody to dig. I'd love to hang out with you. And so I started apprenticing with him, and I did some gardening work with him, and then I started really getting into tomatoes as I was researching the book and writing the book, and I would get heirloom seeds in, and we'd cultivate heirloom seeds.
But how hard was it to grow heirloom tomatoes? Was it more difficult than regular tomatoes?
Yeah, they're more prone to disease.
Oh.
And what was funny,
Why?
They're because they're more sensitive, because they haven't been hybridized and they haven't been engineered.
Right, I see.
Yeah.
So they're real.
They're real, and they're sensational. My first year it was incredible, but then I realized to my great chagrin that this is such a bizarre gardening thing, I wasn't composting well enough. I wasn't cooking my compost long enough, so my tomatoes, there was too much nitrogen in the soil, my tomatoes would get huge and then they'd die.
Oh no!
It was devastating. And I kept thinking, I'm writing a book called Tomato Rhapsody and I can't even grow tomatoes.
Were you writing it at the time?
I was writing it all those years, and I was getting very neurotic, so I'm like, I'm writing this book called Tomato Rhapsody and I can't even grow tomatoes. What does that mean?
How long were you writing it?
I started in right before 1999.
There's a lot of words in it.
Yeah.
You pick it up, and the type size is very small, and there's a lot of words. But I can see you're a good talker, so you're a good writer too.
I'll talk to the publisher. I'll send you the larger font when they print the larger font.
Did you base it on fact?
Well, what I try to do in the book,
because it's a novel.
Right, it's a novel. And I don't want to enter that kind of territory It's
not about Sean Driscoll.
No. It is a 16th century romantic farce about a Jewish-Italian tomato farmer who has this forbidden romance with the Christian stepdaughter of the town's evil olive farmer.
It was very difficult to get all those people straight and those names.
Well, that's why I put the dramatis personae.
Yeah, that was fabulous to do that.
So what I really tried to do with the book was to write the kind of book that I want to read. And I love historical fiction, but it can often be dry. And I love magic realism, but it can often have great sadness to it. And thankfully, I haven't experienced that much sadness in my life. I've experienced a lot of irony and a lot of humor, being a first-generation Jew who's a college football player and now a yogi. There's a lot of ironical...
Right, you teach yoga, don't you?
I teach yoga, yeah. So I wanted to write the kind of book that I wanted to read, which is, I love historical fiction, I love magic realism, I wanted to have multi-character, multi-perspective, but with a great sense of humor to it.
It's almost like you burst into song, because you're reading along and then there's a recipe,
right?
And then this is the reason the recipe's there. Or you'll talk about, or you're writing in rhyme, which is difficult.
Right.
How'd you decide to do that?
Well, the characters in the village speak something called Etruscanato antiquato, which is antiquated Etruscan. And as I was researching the book, and I was researching the kind of evolution of Italian and so forth, and I started to write there was a character between the two villains, between Giuseppe and his henchman Benito. And as I was writing one day, Giuseppe started to rhyme. As he was telling Benito what to do, it just started to come off in rhyming couplets. And I was like, wow, this is fun. It's hard, but it's fun. And then I started to think about creating this village as this romantic ideal. One of the things I wanted to do is to stuff the book almost with these romantic ideals that we have about Europe, Shakespeare, Italy, and then spin it on its head.
But everything you talk about, like stuff the books, like stuffing the tomato, and talking about the vegetables, because you talk about zucchini and eggplant and curing olives and
right.
all of that stuff that we know about, but we're reading about it in the book. Your characters are doing those things.
What motivates me is this is a rather yogic thing, but we have the same genetic makeup of our ancestors 45,000 years ago. But when the Industrial Revolution happened, we took a jump that was so not in accord with our genes that this longing for family and for community and to stay close to the earth and to stay close to food and children and generations living within one house and even living with animals and so forth. These are the things that really kind of inspire me. I'm fascinated too by the jump that we took with the Industrial Revolution, where we're so far from our families, we're so far from our food source.
Our food is not even what you're talking about in your book.
Right.
The food that we have today.
Right. Right.
So that's why this is so interesting.
Yes.
And so and really intriguing in a way, like, why can't we go back and do that?
Right. Well, I think we see that happening in the whole slow food movement, the explosion of farmers markets throughout the country.
Right.
This is all really important and valuable stuff. The organic food movement, the
So
biodynamic
you have
food
some
movement.
organic
yeah, actually,
food.
I did bring
And
some
on
organic
page
food.
what?
This is a recipe from page 71, where the main character of Davido meets the good padre.
And so we are talking about organic things and things that you grow in your backyard.
Yeah. So they have this.
Or that you know where to buy.
Right. And I'll, as I spill them out, I'll explain. So what happens is the good padre has come to tell the Hebrews, the Hebrews, that things are changing and they can now come to market to sell their tomatoes. And this is a total revelation. And the main character of Davido is so inspired and blown away by this that as the good padre is leaving, he says, here, take some tomatoes, and he gives him this recipe. He spontaneously shouts out this recipe, which is the good padre's summer tomato salad. So it's organic tomatoes, and I wish my garden was in right now. It's a little bit of olives. I put the seasoning in the olive because I didn't want to bring separate seasonings. And then here.
What kind of olives are those?
Those, ideally, it would have been Alfonso olives, which is the olive that I based in the book, which is it's actually a Chilean olive. It's a fabulous olive.
No seeds in there?
No. But I used a Gaeta olive for today.
Okay.
And then here's some crostini that I broke up, some herb crostini. And
did you dry the bread and make it?
Yeah. I sautéed it and then toasted it and so forth.
In olive oil?
Yeah.
And what's this?
This is a really good raw pecorino romano. It's going to be it's a salted cheese, but it'll give a nice bite when it's in the salad. And then here we have, this is what makes it. This is the hint that gives it summer's hint. This is from my garden, fresh Julian basil and fresh mint. It's mint that gives it summer's hint. Mint that gives it summer's hint. And then we take some, I'm going to take a lemon here real quick. I'm going to zest the lemon first. Guys, at home, this is the key. Zesting a lemon, I clean these two just so you know. Zesting a lemon adds so much flavor.
Oh, that
it changes everything. And don't go too deep. You don't want to use the pith, which is the yellow. Just get that skin off the top.
Oh,
just
I can already smell it.
You smell it? Yeah, it gives that beautiful perfume, and that kind of the sensuous quality, the redolence.
That's great.
Yeah, and just kind of a little bit of zesting. And now I'm going to cut this one. You want this salad to be wet, okay, because it's got the bread in there, and the bread's been well toasted and so forth, so it can handle. And I'm just going to do the lemon through a strainer.
I'm going to hold this.
Oh, thank you. See, we get a little teamwork going here.
Ta-da! Lemon seeds.
Ay. These are great little device. Great little device invented by the Romans. The lemon
zester. Is that
zester.
right? The zester? No.
No, I made that up. I don't know what it is, but that's kind of what I do in the book.
That's why you can write a book. Because you can make up anything you want.
Okay, here I have some very good red wine vinegar, just to give it a nice kind of tart quality. I'll take that.
And while we're talking, and while you're mixing the vinegar and some oil probably, right? What's your next project? More food?
The next, well, there is food involved. It involves the discovery of chocolate extra virgin olive oil, organic extra virgin olive oil.
A lot, huh?
From Armenia.
From Armenia.
And then I'm just going to give this a little toss.
Oh.
I'm going to show off now. I'll do this. Use the lip. And this can sit. This just give it 30 seconds or so, just so the bread can get that flavor in there.
Don't mix it like that.
No, not at home. You can use a rubber spatula at home. Okay, so I'm going to serve up a little. You can give this a try.
Well, we're serving. We're going to say goodbye.
Oh, that's it? All right. Well, it's been a great fun.
Goodbye.
You want to give them one bite just to see how
give me one bite.
Just to see how we did here. Okay. Here is a spoon.
One bite, and I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll be right back with Dani Silver Simons, the artist.
Thank you so much. How'd we do? All right?
I love tomatoes.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with artist Dani Silver Simons, who was born in Massachusetts and raised in Pennsylvania. She attended Allegheny Community College, Shady Side Art Academy, and the University of Pittsburgh, where she got her undergraduate degree. Then went on to earn a master's in drawing from Wayne State University in Detroit. Dani gained fame and recognition as both an installation and performance artist. And you're going to have to tell us what an installation artist is first, and then tell us what performance is.
Okay. So the installation work that I did when I was younger and starting out was site-specific installation.
Which means?
The pieces were designed specifically for the site where they would be seen, and they existed only during the show.
Oh, so they're not something that you take away?
No.
And then that's called installation?
Well, there are other installations as well, where you install work. It means it comes over a period of time, or there are lots of different iterations of installations. What I was doing was specifically designing for a location for an exhibit. Very, very exciting work. Very exciting. Always on edge, always on. The piece could never be finished until the exhibit occurred, high pressure. And the thing that you took away from it were the drawings.
That's what I wondered, what you took away from it.
That was the collectible, was the drawing. Performance work, you know, it's always hard to define performance work because it's really not theater. It's really not this, it's really not that, but it is all of those things.
Are you a part of it? Do you perform? Is that what it means?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I was younger, I started in performance because I wanted to have something that existed in real time and for which there was nothing left over at all. So I began as
So that's the difference between installation and performance. You have nothing taken away with performance.
Right.
Installation, you may take a drawing or
you could take a drawing. And my performances in the beginning actually had no documentation. The only thing that existed was a sheet of paper where people would sign in. So that now, many decades later, all I have is a piece of paper with the people who attended.
Who were there to see it. You don't have snapshots? You don't have...
No.
But is that how you wanted it to be?
I did. I really did. I wanted something that was not collectible at the time. Something that was truly a gift and existed in real time. Now I just finished a performance that was a 9-hour piece, 3 hours a day for 3 days.
Oh, I see.
Right, done in silence, and that had full documentation.
Were you a part of it?
No.
Oh, no.
As a director only.
I see.
I
So
directed
what was it that we saw for 3 hours at a time?
3 hours for 3 days consecutively. I had done an installation piece, this time not site-specific. So for 7 weeks, I brought a painting a week that was marked representing that week. The paintings were stacked, one on top of the other. They dealt with the concept of memory and the compression of time.
Oh, you like overlapping things, don't you?
I do like layering things,
yes.
And I like the idea that time is layered, and the idea that time is like a spiral that will go around and line up. So on the spiral, today is Friday, so if we were able to quiet ourselves enough and to be very present, we would line up with all Fridays, past, present, future.
That's the layering.
That's the layering. And so this particular piece, at the end of 7 weeks of layering canvases, I then had multiple performers over a 3-day period come and disassemble a ribbon of canvas. I call them strand pullers. They pulled the strands apart, reduced them to string, their essence, and then I used that to wrap the canvases. So,
so each 3 hours, a different thing occurs?
The same thing occurred, but with different people.
I see. And where'd you get the people?
They were friends, they were fellow artists, colleagues, people that I thought could really bring themselves to the piece, that they could add to the piece.
Is color involved in it?
Not in that piece. That
No.
piece is just
Is
gray.
music involved?
Not directly. It was a silent piece, though music
Silent, you
is
said.
music is something.
But
that
what
I
happens?
respond
There's
to.
noise when people are coming in, isn't there?
This was really a silent piece.
Really?
It was really silent. The strand pullers were instructed to stay within a certain perimeter of the piece. They were not. They were asked not to speak.
Were they dressed in a certain way?
Very comfortable, light-colored clothing. That's all. There was otherwise no directive for the clothing, and that they had to try to get to a center within themselves and bring that out through the meditation of the piece.
So they were a part of the piece as well.
Yes, they became part of the piece.
So have you ever directed theater?
No, I actually was in theater. I worked with Living Theater.
Because that's what it
yes.
sounds like, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's a part of me, I think, that will always resonate in that area, but it's not the main focus of who I am. It's something I go back to again and again.
Well, one of the things, we know your work is exhibited all through the United States and in different galleries, but those are paintings.
Right.
We're talking about paintings now, which are the things that we have here. Yeah. And you're described as a mark maker.
Right.
What does that mean? Did you give your own description? Is
yes,
that your
I
own
call
description?
myself a mark maker. I think of myself as a mark maker. I call myself a mark maker. I think we are all mark makers. My background, my training is in drawing, and obviously drawing is marking. I think that every step we take, everything we do, is much like the crumbs that Hansel and Gretel dropped on the way through the forest. The difference is that hopefully people pick up mine or collect them, and then you kind of move through the world that way.
Instead of the birds eating the crumbs.
Right. Hopefully
you have
they'll
something
collect my
But
my
these, I'm
paintings.
looking at these. These are slashes,
Yes.
or are they marks? Are they cuts in
They're
the canvas?
both. They're both. They are cut.
This one?
This particular painting is cut. The cuts are left open. This painting is cut, and the cuts are filled. This is part of an antiquities series that I've been working on that shows a lot of reverence for the past and then applying our mark on top.
But it's a canvas.
Yes, these are all
And
three
it's
canvas.
just piles, layers and layers, which goes back to what you were talking about in your performance, layers of things.
Right.
And how do you apply it? Tell me what the
process is.
what material too.
Right, so this is all acrylic. These three are all acrylic, although there's marker in this as well. The layering process for the antiquities pieces, they're actually layered in much the way I think history is layered. So I'll start with a glaze and then just start packing on the paint and burying marks on layer after layer. So they're marked within the layers.
Oh,
You'll
so the
see a
colors.
few little marks kind of peeking through.
But colors?
Colors as well. And the layers are polished as I go along.
Oh, that's right. How do you polish them?
Polish them with rags.
Do you?
Yeah, various.
Do they get shiny, or do they
Sometimes they get very, very shiny. They'll look like leather. They'll look like stone. It looks like I'll cut them out of a cave wall.
Let's talk about this one too,
Okay.
because this has another layer on
Right.
top of a layer.
Right. This is a piece I started on a trip in Hawaii. When I travel, I don't take a camera. I work. Half of my suitcase is always filled with materials, art materials. Probably all artists do that. I'm not aware of it, but it's what I do. So the individual strips were marked in Hawaii, and I brought them home and then assembled this
Oh, they're
piece.
all thin
They
little
were all
strips, and they're marked with like...
These are marked with marker, and then they've been painted, and this is really about the travel of that particular trip.
They look like the way you mark fives, bundles of fives.
Yes,
Are
yeah,
they?
They are. They are. They're
Were they the
tallies.
days that you were there, or the
They
minutes?
are.
Or?
They're not specifically counting, but they are marking.
I see.
So it's being cognizant of the time, not counting it, but being cognizant
Well,
of it.
in these kind of works, where you said you had a silent installation, silent performance, are these having to do with music? Because it looks like the writings of music.
Right. On some level, I think it must. I respond very, very strongly to music. And when I first heard Philip Glass,
Yes.
a long time ago, right, before he used instruments, when he was only using voices in the basement of a church in New York, you know, a little mimeograph flyer, he presented sound as a block that filled the space.
Well, this looks like something he might write.
Right,
Or the
right.
idea.
It's that kind of. I have
Yeah.
that affinity for the same sort of concept.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are the inspirations then for the slashes and the marks?
The slashes, I don't think of them as slashes. I think of them as openings in time or space, as seeking another dimension.